Hello, everybody. My name is Steven Munatones, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of KAATSU Global. And I want to thank you for joining us on this webinar on this Cyber Monday. I have about a 25-minute presentation that will cover the who, why, what, when, where, and how of KAATSU. Um, and based on that, you can answer any, or we can have any discussion on any questions you have. You can either raise your hand in the Q&A section, and actually someone actually have already answered a question. So let me start off with answering that question, and then we'll get into the particulars of KAATSU. And the question is, I'm 82 and in very good health. I go to the YMCA gym 2 or 3 times a week and use their e-gym system to build and maintain muscle. I also hike a lot, although slower now. KAATSU is pretty expensive. What is the major benefit for me to use it? Seems like most of your examples are people recovering from various injuries or heart attacks. So it's wonderful that you go to the gym and you're in very good health. That's great. Um, for people who are active and healthy, KAATSU may not be for you. The major benefits and the benefit that really sold me on KAATSU, and when I first met Dr. Sato 25 years ago, the major benefit I saw was for my parents. Now, my parents are now 88 and 90 years old, respectively. Both of them have overcome cancer twice. So they have gone through some lows and highs of cancer, prostate, lung, breast, and skin. So two each for both of them. And in their 90 or their late 80s, I'll call it, the key benefit for them, and what I saw the key benefit back in 25 years ago, was the ease and convenience of KAATSU. Now, if you're young enough, able enough, active enough, and motivated enough to go out and train, hike, do all kinds of gym workouts, fitness workouts, those advantages of ease of use, convenience, um, uh, aren't probably don't enter into the equation. For those people who are looking for ease of use, who are looking for convenience, then KAATSU is good for you. And the reason why is KAATSU helps maintain and improve your vascular elasticity. What does that mean? That means your arteries, your veins, your capillaries will be able to expand and contract more. What does that mean? That means you'll have good blood circulation. That means when you do exercise and you do produce stuff like growth hormone, adrenaline, testosterone, beta endorphins, BDNF, IGF-1, etc., those molecules can go around your system very effectively. So KAATSU is not a necessary purchase for those individuals. KAATSU becomes more um, important or more valuable, I should say, for people who don't go out and are active or able and are motivated to do so. In the case of my parents, they still drive, both of them. My father hobbles a bit. And so for him to go out to a gym or even him to go riding his bike as he did in his early 80s, it's not a feasible and realistic or convenient um, method of exercise. In his case, because he won't get on a bike anymore, I'm not talking about a tricycle, I'm talking a traditional bike. And because his hip is bad, has arthritis, running and jogging what he used to do isn't feasible. KAATSU becomes a very easy and very, very convenient way to maintain his muscle mass as he enters his 90s. So he doesn't have a heart issue. He had a lung cancer. He had prostate. Both of those are in remission. And so he needs to maintain his muscle mass. he needs to have continued good blood flow, especially in the vacuum that's created by that um, cancerous tumor that was radiated out of his upper lobe, upper lung. And so in his case, it's extremely valuable for him. The alternative would be for him to, let's say, buy some weights and just start pumping iron in his living room or his bedroom or in the kitchen. And that, for a 90-year-old, that's just, at least for my father, it's just not going to happen. However, if he could sit in front of the television, he enjoys Major League Baseball, he enjoys watching NBA, and certainly now the NFL games, college football. So he's spending a lot of time in front of a television. As he's sitting in front of the television, he is putting, which I have now, I have an example of a band on my arm, a B2 band on my arm, which he uses on his both of his arms and his legs. As he's watching the game, he's just doing some simple exercises, very simple exercises. He doesn't need to lift weights. He doesn't need to go outside and get on a bicycle, which he would undoubtedly fall. He doesn't need to do squats because when he's sitting in a chair, all he needs to do is leg extensions, hold it, walk up and down the stairs. This makes it easy and convenient. So KAATSU is expensive for sure, but when you are in certain situations, the ease and convenience becomes valuable. If, on the other hand, you're mobile, able, motivated, etc., and you can go to the YMCA, you can hike, etc., then the ease and convenience and motivation are not an issue. So that in a simple nutshell is why would you spend the money for KAATSU? Um, the next question is KAATSU recommended with a diagnosis of small fiber neuropathy? I read conflicting pros and cons online. Um, so if you Google KAATSU, KAATSU, so if you Google KAATSU, most likely you're getting a variety of BFR information. BFR stands for blood flow restriction, which means the blood pressure cuff or tourniquet, which is like this, much wider. So if I put this blood pressure cuff on my arm, you'll see the major difference between a blood pressure cuff or tourniquet and KAATSU. And let me just get this blood pressure cuff on my arm. And we've all had our blood pressure taken. And we know towards the end, it becomes, at least I believe, it is uncomfortable. So in other words, I can get and I do have my blood pressure taken often, but it is uncomfortable to me. In other words, I don't like having that blood pressure cuff on my arm for too long. And so what I have here is you can see the difference in width between the between the blood pressure cuff and the KAATSU band. Two completely different, oops, why is it? Sorry, it zoomed in on me and I'm not quite sure how to zoom out. Um, so it's two different widths. What happens is the blood pressure cuff is very, very efficient in um, it's AI generated, I guess, the camera work. The blood pressure cuff is very, very efficient in squeezing, compressing my arm and occluding or cutting off blood supply. That's how you take your blood pressure taken. That is the purpose of a blood pressure cuff or tourniquet. And what you're reading online is information about BFR. It makes complete sense for there to be cons when there is complete or even partial occlusion of blood into your limb when you have neuropathy, when you have other issues. So the cons are undeniable. On the other side of the equation, you have KAATSU. KAATSU is narrow. The bands are elastic, meaning the band, I don't know if you can see it here. I can, yeah, you can't really see, but I can stretch this band. What that means is when the air goes into this band and my arm moves in any case, the band actually stretches outwards. I can't do that with a blood pressure cuff. On a blood pressure cuff, it is inflexible, purposely so. That is why a blood pressure cuff was designed that way. It remains stiff. And so if the air goes into the blood pressure cuff, it is cutting off blood supply. In KAATSU's case, the bands inflate the even if I increase my bicep size by contracting my muscle, the band expands. It flows with the muscle. And so what happens is the arterial flow or the blood from your torso out to your hand or foot continues unimpeded. In other words, there's no arterial occlusion. What happens is when that band inflates, so when the band inflates, the band um, expands inwardly. When it expands inwardly, what happens is the blood flow back from your hands or feet to your torso is slowed down or what we call modified. When that happens, you have this effect. And this hand here does not, well, I'll take the or blood pressure cuff off. So this is my normal color of the palm of my hand. This is my normal skin color. This is my KAATSU color. It's different. And I have this on low pressure, by the way. So it's different. Right now, the band compressor is pumping out air into this band. And then what's happening is blood is going in normally. And for the 30 seconds that the band is inflated, the amount of blood is reduced slightly. When it's reduced slightly, the excess blood stays in the hand or an arm. And you can see either the palm of my hand, the difference in color, or you could see the arm here. The lower arm is where the cuts is, and that's redder. That's because all of the excess blood um, is being engorged in my arm. You can tell also there's this is the way my hands normally look without any um, KAATSU or without any BFR band. And this is what happens when my um, the bands are on. The veins dilate, they get bigger because there's more blood in this arm. But there's no occlusion, no arterial occlusion. So blood is going in normally and out. So I'm not restricting the blood at the end of my hands or my feet. So in cases of neuropathy, cardiac issues, etc., we were also wondering about KAATSU many years ago. And that's why we teamed up with a team of cardiologists at the University of Tokyo Hospital between 2004 and 2014. That's where I was trained. That's where I was mentored by these cardiologists about how to use KAATSU safely, how to use KAATSU effectively. And that included over 2,000 people who had heart attacks, strokes, any kind of heart disease, a stent implanted, etc. So we know that KAATSU is gentle on the body. And people say, well, what was the results? Results were very, very successful. There were no untoward events. People got better. They didn't get worse. And so it became a modality that was at least accepted in Japan. That's where I trained. And that's where Dr. Sato and Dr. Nakajima and Dr. Morita and we decided that we wanted to share KAATSU with the rest of the world. And so that is what we've done. So even though you see pros and cons of KAATSU, we have to always make sure, are we talking about KAATSU with no arterial occlusion, or are we talking about BFR where you have blood pressure cuffs on the arm and there are cons to partial or full occlusion of blood into a limb? And so um, if you want more information, you can email us at info@kaatsu.com. I'm typing this in the chat, info@kaatsu.com, and we could provide you additional information, published scientific research, and the clinical results that we saw from those 10 years and where we've seen continuing on. Um, the next question is, what type of exercises can be done while I'm wearing KAATSU? I'm a 59-year-old postmenopausal woman. I exercise, but not vigorously. What is the difference between KAATSU and other restriction devices? So there are many differences. I'll first address your question about what type of exercises can be done with KAATSU. You can do any movement, any exercise, any yoga, any stretching, any vigorous exercise, any sport that you would like. The reason why the band, part of the reason why the bands are shaped and placed in the upper arm and upper leg is so your limbs have freedom of movement. You can throw a ball, you can swing a club, you can stretch, touch your toes, you can use a squeeze ball, you can jump rope, you can cycle, you can be on a treadmill, you can wash dishes, you can blow dry your hair, you could put on makeup, you can paint your fingernails, you could do anything that you do inside the home or outside the home, anything you do in an office or during travel. You can sit as my father does, and what he does is what we call KAATSU three-point exercises. That is, we put the bands on the arms and we do hand clenches, repeated hand clenches. Then we do bicep curls, unweighted, so no weight in your arm. You go slowly and you contract the muscles in both ways. And then you can do tricep extensions. So you get, let me just see here. You get that tricep extension and you can move that the muscle in the back of your arm. You could brush your teeth, you can garden, you could do vigorous stuff like burpees and push-ups, wall sits. Uh, if you want to work on your core, one great exercise that I've done for years is uh, put the bands on your legs, stand on one leg or one foot, and just balance. I had my 90-year-old father do this. Initially, he could not balance. He was always tipping over. So he just held on to a chair or table or the couch if he was in front of the television. Gradually, if you stand on one leg with the KAATSU bands on your legs, you do that for as long as you can. Maybe it's 10 seconds, maybe it's 3 minutes, whatever the situation is. Then what you do is you switch legs and you work on the other side. When you do that, your abdomen and your lower back muscles tighten and it's a great exercise. It's much easier than doing sit-ups or planks or crunches. You can also put a simple book on your head with the leg bands and either sit up straight, shoulders back, straight spine, watch TV, read a book, or walk, pace back and forth in your room. You'll be working on your core. Remarkably, this is what Olympic and professional athletes do to work on the core. Olympic athletes are the same as you and me. They don't necessarily like to do a lot of sit-ups or crunches or planks, but if they can walk around the gym, they can walk around the pool deck, they can walk around the track with a book on their head, walking with a great posture and strengthen the core, then great. So there are innumerable things you do. I had an older man, 74 years old, former NCAA a player. He actually played with Lou Alcindor, now known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, back in New York City. He relocated out to Long Beach, went to Long Beach State, was an extraordinarily good basketball player at a time when Long Beach State was in the top five. I met him when he was 74. He could not raise his arm above his head. And I asked him, um, why are you interested in KAATSU? And he says, simple reason. I was a basketball player all my life and I can't shoot a basketball. Just couldn't do it. He couldn't raise his arm above his head. He explained to me that, and he lives by himself. His wife passed away. He could not put the dishes in the cupboard. He couldn't put a simple plate or a cup up in the cupboard. So his kitchen was filled with plates and dishes because he couldn't do this. He explained to me that when he wanted to wash his hair, he had to bend down and wash his hair this way. He could not wash his hair in a shower like this. And I said, okay, those are three very good reasons. You want to shoot hoops, you want to shoot a few basketballs, etc. So what we did, I put the bands on his arms. First day, I have video of this. He was able to move it about here. You should have seen the smile on his face. His name is Tap Nixon. Happy as can be. Within 2 weeks, we were outside. I was passing him the ball. Not only was he shooting free throws and jumpers, he was also shooting three-point shots, which takes a lot of effort. And so I asked him, "Well, how's everything?" He says, not only am I playing basketball now, he volunteered in the local Long Beach City school district, and he's playing with the kids. And he's washing his hair, standing up, and he's putting the plates back in the cupboard. So in this particular case, we had an older man. He had three very specific goals in mind, and we literally worked on those goals. When I put the bands on his arms, I asked him to show up with a basketball. He had the bands on his arms, and I just had him to dribble. That's all I had him dribble. We did chest passes. By the third day, then he was able to shoot. I took his interest in basketball and I used that to motivate him to do different exercises that benefited him, his ability to wash his hair or put his plates and glasses up in the cupboard. So you can do any exercise, yoga. My wife does KAATSU. She does Zumba with her friends. She started during COVID when they do virtual Zumba, and they're using the Zumba on their legs. Walking your dog, washing your car, dusting your house. Anything where you're doing movement is great. So I'll go back to what my father did, the KAATSU three-point exercises, hand clenches, bicep curls, tricep extensions, and on his legs, what he does is he puts the bands on his upper leg, both legs, rotates his ankle as much as he can, curls his toes, and then as he's sitting, he's doing heel raises. So he's raising his hands. During the commercials, he's standing up and doing modified squats. We call them non-lock quarter squats. So not the squat that you go all the way down to 90 degrees, sort of at a 45-degree angle. For him at 90, that's good. We call those the KAATSU three-point exercises for the legs. People play the piano, people play the guitar, people play cards. We have some, what do you call it? Estheticians, when they actually are working on their clients, they have the KAATSU on their arms. Some of the more advanced ones, they actually put the KAATSU bands on their clients as they're lying down on the table and giving them a facial or whatever else they're doing. So any movement you can do, anywhere you can do it, you could do it with KAATSU. Um, the next question is, would KAATSU help generally with cold hands and feet? I want to tell you a story about cold hands and feet. There was a woman, also just coincidentally, lived in Long Beach, California. Her name was Tina. She was a cake decorator at a uh, what do you call it? Supermarket chain called Vaughn's. And because she was a cake decorator, she would have to leave her house early and drive in the dark to get to the um, uh, market early and then decorate the cake. So when the customers come in the morning, she handed them the cake. Fortunately, she was T-boned. She was driving. Someone ran a red light, smashed into her. She became an immediate paraplegic. I met her 12 years after that horrific accident. For 12 years, she was hospitalized. She could barely talk. Her eyeballs had actually been dislocated. They had to put her eyeballs back. They called it an internal decapitation. She was very bad off, but she lived. She survived. 6 years after being hospitalized, she was stable enough that she was released from the discharged from the hospital, and she lived with her older sister and her husband, and they had a 24/7 group of caregivers who helped her um, bathe, eat. She couldn't move her arms, she couldn't move her legs, and she was constantly cold, constantly cold. I visited her in July. I visited her because one of her family friends had knew about KAATSU, and they approached me and they said, "Steve, is there any way you can help a quadriplegic?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." I learned all of this back in Japan working under Dr. Sato and Dr. Nakajima. Not a problem. They said, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, it depends on what the person individually wants to do." So I said, "Yeah, I'll go meet her." I visited her home. It was a warm summer day. I entered the her home. Her sister greeted me very warmly. I was dressed as maybe I had a collar shirt on that time, and I had my KAATSU bands. Uh, Her sister greeted me. We went back into her room, which was a bedroom in the back of the house. Now, it was a warm summer day in Southern California. Everything in the room, all the windows and all the doors were closed. Tina was on the bed, as she is 24/7, and she had a big, thick, she had long sleeve shirt and a big, thick sweater on, and she had heavy bedding over her. Uh, Very pleasant woman, smiled broadly, and we got to talk. Well, it was very, very warm in that room for me, but for Tina, it was very, very cold. Tina was constantly cold, and this is what most quadriplegics experience because their body isn't moving. Long story short, I taught her caregivers, I taught her sister, I taught the people in the family how to use KAATSU. And what we did very simply is I asked her, "What do you want to do? What do you want? What is the one thing that you would like if you could change what you do?" Now, if she would have told me I want to run a marathon, I would have been the first to tell her that's not possible. You're the uh, connection between your brain and the rest of your body, that's been severed. That won't happen. But she told me, "I just want to eat by myself. I just want to grab a spoon, a knife, and put the food into my own mouth." And I said, "I don't know if that's possible, But if that's your goal, let's work toward that. Now, she was cold. I taught her caregivers, her sister, how to use KAATSU. We did the same thing. We put the bands on her upper arms. We went through a few KAATSU cycles, then we did it on her legs. Um, and we did that for 6 weeks. The very, very first positive outcome that Tina told us was she was feeling warm. And that makes sense because I've had this band on now for, let's see, 31 minutes. And you can see this is my normal hand. This is my KAATSU color. I have a lot of warm blood in this arm. And that is what Tina was feeling. She was feeling the most warm blood just being engorged throughout her arms and her legs. She was feeling warm. By the third day that I had gone back to see her, I visited her, and here she was. It was the cutest thing. She had makeup on. I could tell she had blush on, but she had a short sleeve shirt on, and she still had a sheet over her and a thin blanket that I won't that's truth. But she didn't have the heavy blanket that she had, and she didn't have the thick sweater that she had on before. And she said it was wonderful mentally, emotionally, because now the windows were open. Again, it was still a warm summer day. She could hear the birds sing. She could hear the dogs bark. Before, she could still hear that, but everything was closed. So in her case, the first positive outcome was engorging the hands and limbs, feet in blood, and that helps warm the human body. The second case that I want to do is even more impactful. I traveled up to Seattle. I visited a young man. He had severe cerebral palsy. He was in the fetal position. He was 20 years old. Did KAATSU on him with his mother and his caregiver at his side. And because he was in the fetal position and uh, he couldn't speak. Every I don't know every 5 minutes or so, the caregiver had to put a tube in his throat to clear out the phlegm. So he had 24/7 care. But when I did cuts on him, he was curled up. And when he was curled up, I couldn't put the band on the arm that was on the bed. I could only put the band on the arm that was exposed or above. So I put the band on, and again, the young man's hand became nice and rosy and red like myself, and the caregiver was holding his hand, and I saw a tear come down her eye. And why? Because she had never felt his warm hands before. She felt his hands are warm. It makes complete sense. If you're engorging a limb in blood, you're bringing the warm blood of your torso out, and it's putting the warm blood here. I'll give you a third and last example. This was a test that we did before the 2024 Tokyo Olympics. Again, I'm sorry, the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. That was Olympics that was impacted by COVID and the quarantines and lockdowns, etc. And so they did not allow fans into the stands, and they restricted the amount of time that the Olympians could uh, get into the host country, in this case, Tokyo. Typically, if you have the Paris Olympics or the upcoming LA Olympics or any Olympics that you remember, the athletes move into the Olympic Village well in advance and get accustomed to the time zone, get accustomed to the competition venues, the food, etc. But in Tokyo, because of the pandemic, that amount of time was restricted, and therefore the IOC, International Olympic Committee researchers were looking at KAATSU. They were looking at KAATSU as a way to mitigate jet lag. Because if you're an athlete from a nearby time zone, let's say you're Chinese, you're flying from Beijing, or you're from Korea and you're traveling 1 hour to Japan, you have a very distinct advantage over, let's say, Americans that are traveling from New York or Europeans that are traveling from London all the way around the world to Japan. Here, it's literally halfway around the world. And so they were looking at ways that cuts can be used as a way to mitigate that jet lag. Won't eliminate it, but it can mitigate the effects of jet lag. One of their tests, I'm sorry, one of their analysis of what happens was when you use, and I taught them our jet lag protocols. They tested it and they found it was actually true. But one of the reasons that it was true was something I had not thought of or even imagined. And that is when the limb is engorged in blood, like my hand here, as opposed to my normal hand without KAATSU, and I take off the band. So now I'm taking off the band. And now I'll turn it off. And now my blood here is going back to my torso as normal. What is happening? That blood that normally, and you'll see my hand slowly return back to its normal color, and it's almost there. So what's happening is this warm blood at the surface of my arm is returning back. What's happening? The skin temperature is falling. It's falling, and that is what our skin temperature normally does when we go to bed. So one of the outcomes of this IOC um, uh, analysis of KAATSU for jet lag mitigation was something I hadn't thought of before, and that is when you do KAATSU before you go to bed as a way to help you sleep better, what's really happening, or one of the mechanisms of that happening, is that the blood here at the surface is returning back to normal, and the skin temperature of your limbs is falling. That is one of our skin temperature typically falls as we go to bed. And so these are three various examples of why you can help uh, you can help yourself with KAATSU if you have cold hands and cold feet. Next question is, how long can you wear KAATSU per day? How long can you wear your KAATSU per sessions and per day? So I just took off my band just because it was here. Typically, if I look at the um, KAATSU app or our C4 unit. I'll just show the app right now. So, so this is our main manual. You'll see the cycle mode. If I click on the cycle mode, it's not. I need to connect it. Say arms. And if I say any of these, you can see the number of sets can be one, two, three, four, five, and six. So six is the maximum. So I can do 6 sets, and each set is roughly between 6 and 8 minutes, depending on how big the band is and how much pressure you put on. So let's say that is roughly 38 to 44, 45 minutes. That is what you can do. That is on the arms or the legs. You can do a session with your arms and your legs. So if you double that, do arms, I'll call it 42 minutes, and your legs, I'll call it again 42 minutes. That's almost an hour and a half. So each session can be up to an hour and a half. That doesn't necessarily mean that, oops, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody does an hour and a half session every day, but you can go up to an hour and a half in the cycle mode. Cycle mode means pressure on, pressure off. So I'm going to turn this band on without having it on my arms. And it is, you can see here, I'll do start. It's for 30 seconds. The band is inflating, and now it's going on for 30 seconds. You can see it here, 30 seconds, 25, 24, 23, 22. So I can have this on, pressure off, 30 seconds of inflation, 5 seconds of deflation for 8 cycles. That all equals to about 40, 42 minutes. You can do that 2 or 3 times a day. Now, if you're an Olympic athlete, and part of my presentation was about Olympic athletes or elite soldiers who are doing KAATSU for various purposes, they're doing it 2 or 3 times a day. Normal people, myself included, we don't need to do it 2 or 3 times a day unless you have some high priority rehabilitation or performance goals to shoot for. So, for example, we have questions from a mother or grandmother. My daughter or my grandchild is getting married in 6 weeks. I want to be in as good shape as possible for that. What do I do? We put a program together, and if it's a high priority issue like that, they're doing it twice a day. If they are, which I have had these requests, a request from a stand-up comedian who either has a bad hip or bad knees, say, Steve, I'm doing a special and I'm a stand-up comedian, and right now it kills me to stand up. My back really hurts, or my hips hurts, or my knee hurts. So in these cases, they're doing KAATSU to prepare for their stand-up special 2 or 3 times a day. If I have a Navy SEAL who is wants to get deployed, but right now he was injured or hurt in some way, he's doing KAATSU 2 or 3 times a day. That is what you can do when you're using the cut cycle. Again, pressure on, pressure off. Now here's the band, and I don't know if you can tell. The band is um, oval shaped here. And that oval shape enables the arterial flow to go from your arm out to your hands and legs without any issue. So again, how do I use it? I use it while I'm sitting at my desk as I am now, either on a call, on a Zoom meeting, maybe answering emails, maybe writing, maybe reading some research papers. And I have the KAATSU generally on my arms. That's why I have my armbands here. But if I have, let's say, a conference call, then I use my leg bands because I like standing during uh, my calls. I'm sitting most of the day, so I enjoy standing up. And with the KAATSU bands, I'm going pressure on, pressure off throughout the call. So in these cases, I would just, I don't know, let's say my call is 30 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour, then I will be doing the cycle mode during that time. Always starting off at the low pressure. And if I know that the call is going to go for half an hour, then I will set it so I'm going from a low pressure to a high pressure, starting out at, when the meeting starts and then finishing when the meeting ends. That's how I use KAATSU. I told you previously how my 90-year-old father and 88-year-old mother use KAATSU. Again, they're doing the 3-point exercises. They're using it. Let's see, a 3-point exercise is what they do it. They generally do either their arms or their legs at one time. They generally don't do arms and legs. So they have 2 sets. They keep 2 sets in the kitchen, and I'm sorry, 1 set in the kitchen and 1 set in the TV room. And those are the 2 rooms they mostly spend their waking hours in. And so if one is using the arms, the other is using the legs and vice versa. So the answer is up to 90 minutes. You can do that 2 or 3 times a day. If you don't have an overriding high priority issue, like you're not an Olympic athlete who's preparing for something, or someone who's preparing for a wedding or a TED Talk, or a pitch to the movie studios, then, you know, use it once a day. But frequency is the key. Doing it every day or at least 5 times a day, I would say, is truly optimal. Doing it once a week, you're getting that benefit for that, perhaps those 12 hours, and then you're not getting any benefit for the other 100 and whatever, 70 plus hours. So frequency is the key. It's better to do some katsu than no katsu at all. Next question is, I want to start lifting weights, but I'm pretty unmotivated and do not have a lot of time to add to my schedule. I'm not sedentary. I move a lot at work. Perfect. Perfect. In the beginning of this talk, I was talking, somebody asked, cuts is pretty expensive, but I don't, they're very active and they didn't see a need to do cuts and they were asking why. And I mentioned uh, three things. One, ease of use. Two, convenience of use. And three, motivation. And so it's as simple as I have a band on. I put the band on, and I'm just going to do it on one arm for demonstration purposes. I put the band on. You put the band on in that little crease in between your bicep and deltoid. So that little crease in there. If you don't have a big bicep or a big tricep, that's okay. You can feel that dip and put the band in that little dip in that area, which I'm doing here. You put it with a one finger tightness. So one finger can go in between the band and your skin, but not two or three fingers. So if I try to put three fingers in, there's just not enough room to to fit in there. But one finger, I can get in. So uh, what was the question? Sorry. Oh, so that's as easy as putting the bands on. And then if you're moving a lot at home or at work, just move. You can do things. You can type emails, you can move boxes, you can do any kind of movement that you want with the bands on. There's complete range of motion, and simply walking with the bands on your arms works. If you want to build up your arms, but you want the freedom of your arms to do anything, put the bands on your legs. KAATSU works on the vascular system, which means that we have one vascular system. If I'm engorging one limb in blood, that's okay. There is still impact for the rest of your body. Why? Because I have engorged my limb in blood, which means that I have less blood in the rest of my body. I have more blood here, so I must have less blood here. When I have less blood here, guess what? It's a closed loop system. So the blood circulation is going to be improved as it goes around and around our body. And so you don't have to lift weights, but you could do something as easily as brushing your teeth. I guarantee you 100% all of those athletes and business people who start with KAATSU and brushing their teeth or blow drying their hair, they're saying, wow, that was a workout. I feel a pump in my arms, even if they're quite slender or they have little muscle mass. It is absolutely essential to do, I'm sorry, it's absolutely incredible how you don't have to lift weights to feel the exercise of your muscles with the KAATSU. And so, um, you don't have a lot of time. You don't need to do any extra time. So you don't need to, this isn't a either or. This is an add-on. So in other words, I can, I don't actually do any exercise specifically with KAATSU. I simply do, and many KAATSU users are the same. I simply do what I'm going to do in the course of the day, but I use KAATSU during those activities during the course of the day. I'm going to walk my dog. And in the evening, when I walk my dog, guess what? I'm using the KAATSU either on my arms or my legs. My wife is using, if I'm using legs, she's using arms. If I'm using arms, she's using legs when we walk the dog together. So I'm not I'm not taking time out of my day to do KAATSU. I'm using my time in the day to overlay KAATSU what I'm already doing. And that means it's easy and it's convenient. And those are two huge advantages of KAATSU. Next question is, my question is, how would I use KAATSU to start lifting weights? I have both dumbbells and a weight bar at home. Quite easy. You put the bands on either your arms or legs. Even our inventor, who's a very, very well-built man, only uses the barbell or very light weights. He's in Japan, so they use kilograms. So he's using, let's say, the equivalent of a 5 pound weight. Now, he's a very well-built man. My wife and her friends, they're all in their 50s. They're using either a 1 or 2 pound dumbbell. Why? Because if they use, let's say, a 10 or 15 pound dumbbell with KAATSU, they wouldn't be able to do many repetitions. They could not do 10 repetitions at 10 pounds with KAATSU. It would be much too heavy. And that's the beauty of KAATSU. That's another beauty of KAATSU. It's another beauty of KAATSU because they're not going to tear anything. They're not going to injure anything. We probably all have heard of older people who've go to 24-hour fitness, not to pick on 24-hour fitness or any gymnasium, YMCA, and they've hurt themselves because they were lifting too much or they just twisted their body or something. With KAATSU, we want you to lift either no weight or very, very lightweight, but that lightweight is the metabolic equivalent of a heavier weight without the micro trauma of tearing your muscle fibers. So if you want to start using lifting weights, very good. Use the KAATSU bands and start with a very, very light weight. And this is our prescribed program for strength training. Do 3 to 5 sets of each exercise that you want to do. Maybe you're working on your upper body, maybe you're working on your upper body and lower body, and maybe you're doing, I don't know, 3 to 8 different types of exercises. For each of those types of exercise, try to do 3 to 5 sets of those exercises. Pick a weight or amount of resistance that you can do the first set of 30 repetitions. So I know for a fact I could not lift 30 repetitions with the bands on, with KAATSU bands on, at 10 pounds. I know that already. I'm going to pick something like 2 pounds that I could squeeze out 30 repetitions. Then I rest only 20 seconds. Make sure that rest is 20 seconds. Look at a watch, look at a clock. Then do the second repetition. I'm sorry, the second set. The number of repetitions that you do from the first set to the second set will fall. Let's say I did, in an ideal world, 30 repetitions on the first set, rested 20 seconds. I do the second set, maybe I could squeeze out 15 to 20, maybe. Why? Because that first set is what we call priming the pump. I'm building up lactate in the muscle. So my muscle is getting tired, fatigued. I rest for 20 seconds, but that lactate has not completely dissipated from the muscle. And so I do the second set and I can only do 15 to 20. That's okay. That's the KAATSU way. I rest again. Now the third set, maybe I could do 5. Maybe I could do 8. That's okay. You're actually struggling at that point. The fourth set, the fifth set, you follow that protocol, rest for no more than 20 seconds. And if the last, fifth and final set, you can only do 1, that's okay. That's the KAATSU way. At that point, lactate is building up in your muscle. That lactate accumulation is communicated by our central nervous system. The information goes up to our brain. In the brain, the pituitary gland that sits right behind the eyeball shoots out growth hormone. Why does it shoot out growth hormone? Because it senses stress in the muscle. And the growth hormone is a molecule that is trying to help that body recover to overcome that stress. And that is a muscle strengthening biological mechanism. So you've done one set. Oh, sorry, you've done one exercise. Let's say you've done 3 to 5 sets. Start out at pick a weight, doesn't matter what the weight is. It could be 1 pound, it could be 2 pounds, it could be 5 pounds if you're especially strong. Do 30 repetitions to failure. So 28, 29, okay, 30. That's it. I can't do any more. Rest for 20 seconds. Do the second, third, fourth, and fifth set. Then you move on to your next exercise. Whether you're doing bicep curls or a bench press or squats or leg extensions that follow that protocol of 3 to 5 sets, 20 seconds of rest in between, trying to aim. If you can't get to 30 repetitions on the first set, that's perfectly okay. Let's say you get to 20, let's say you get to 15. That number is not as important as the ability to do the second, third, and fourth set repeatedly, even though the number of repetitions is falling. Next question. I would prefer not to use my phone to run KAATSU. Does it require using your phone to run? Absolutely not. This model that I turn on and then operate on my phone is what we call our B2 model. So it's operated by the app on my phone. That's the Bluetooth model. I don't have to use the Bluetooth model. I can get completely rid of that and use the C4 model. C4 model, it uses the same kind of bands. It has the cycle mode, it has arms or legs, and you choose the same pressures as you would in with your phone. This model has no EMF. It's connected to the bands. Let me just pull it up here. It's connected to the band. I'm sorry, it's connected to the bands that go around your arms or legs with a tube. There's a compressor inside, there's a battery inside, and there's a circuit board inside. And that sound you're hearing is the air being pushed out by the compressor through these tubes to the bands that are now inflated. And that's you don't have to use any um, mobile phone, smartphone. There's no app. There's no digital information in the cloud with this. All the This is a what we call a dumb device. It's an analog device. You just tell it what pressures and how long to use it on your arms or legs, and then it will run. So this is a C4 model, fourth generation of the handheld models. No EMF, no, I'm sorry, no smartphone usage, nothing like that. So there are two different types, our B2, Bluetooth, and our C, stands for connected or cycle. That's what this version is. Next question is KAATSU only used for recovery or for people with diminished health? As a fitness enthusiastic and athlete, can it benefit me? Thank you. So, KAATSU is used by several number of professional teams in the NFL, in the Major League Baseball, in National Hockey League, in the NBA. Um, I think our first professional in the NBA was Carmelo Anthony, one of our well-known um, users in the NFL was Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback. Um, in the Major League Baseball, the Dodgers are a big customer of ours, and the Boston Red Sox, as another example, they actually had I think it was a Disney special on their training or their back office, and Katsu was mentioned in there. But we've had many other teams use Katsu, basketball, football, baseball, ice hockey. We also have athletes, all number of professional athletes. Some of them are in the solo sports, like mountaineers going up to Mount Everest, swimmers crossing the English Channel. We have a huge number of Olympic athletes. That includes swimming. We have many American medalists use Katsu. One of I would say, the most visible um, in the past was Dara Torres. She had 12 Olympic swimming medals, but also Caleb Dressel. He had, I think he has 7 Olympic medals. Um, there's been Aaron Pearsall, water polo players. We have professional arm wrestlers. We have triathletes. We have ice skaters. We have skiers, ski jumpers. We have 400 meter, 200 meter, and 100 meter medalists at the Olympics. We have, you name it, trick cyclists, big wave surfers, wrestlers. We have some of the most famous jujitsu and MMA fighters using Katsu. Um, we have platform divers. We have what is it? I forgot, something wrestlers. We have people who are in the International Wrestling Hall of Fame, International Swimming Hall of Fame. We have people in the Professional Sports Hall of Fames. So we have car racer, car drivers. We have among the most famous. We have professional golfers. We have what do you call it? The professional cyclists that you know, go very low on their bicycle. We have uh, there isn't a sport that I can think. Surfers. We have a lot of surfers. So myself and Chris Morgan, we were at the um, Paris Olympics. We were constantly busy addressing the needs of different athletes and coaches and trainers while we were there. We stayed for the Paris Paralympics. We had even more success with the Paralympic athletes, those who were in wheelchairs or had cerebral palsy. We had short people. Why? Because they dissipate their lactate differently than a normal sized person. Um, we have many athletes, and we're not only athletes, we also have performers. Performers means people who give major concerts. And although we may not think of I don't know, Mick Jagger as an athlete. But when you think about the people who are uh, major rock and roll or musicians or singers, they're quite active on during their concerts. Same thing with musicians, same thing with dancers. We have many dancers. So if you're a fitness enthusiast, an athlete, you can be using Katsu, throwing a ball, hitting a ball, hitting it with a golf club, kicking a ball. If you're a soccer player, we have soccer players. We have goalies. And so anything that you do with a ball, a club, a bat, um, you can do with Katsu. We have everybody from Australian rules football teams to, I don't know, water polo players. Um, you could do Katsu in the water. These bands are waterproof. They're made of neoprene. Now, you can't put the B2 model in water, but you could put the C4 bands in water. What you do is you disconnect, you inflate the band, and then you disconnect the band, and it sits around your arm inflated. You could do aqua aerobics, aqua therapy. You could do butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle. Um, you could shoot a ball if you're a water polo player, or many other things. So, yeah, you could use it in many ways. Now, how will it benefit you? In the case of an athlete, depending on what they want. So when we work with a 100-meter dash or 200-meter dash athletes, we we focus on a few things. If you're a 100-meter dash runner at the Olympics, you're running three intense races over 36 hours. So while they're using KAATSU to warm up, more importantly, they're using KAATSU for recovery. But if we're talking about a 10,000-meter runner or a marathon runner, we're using KAATSU actually in their training. If we're talking about a swimmer, we're talking about using the bands on your arms or legs, practicing your starts, practicing your turns, doing endurance work, doing stroke work, etc. So depending on what you want to achieve, we have a 40 years of working with athletes. KAATSU has been used by Olympic athletes since 1988 at the Seoul Olympics. Every single Winter and Summer Olympics since 1988, there have been medalists and Olympians who have used KAATSU in a variety of sports, winter and summer. And so they can use KAATSU very easily on their arm as they're practicing. So let's say you are doing a bench press. Yes, you are getting stronger. However, if you're using KAATSU in your sport, as you're practicing your sport, you're making that muscle stronger in the exact motion that you'll be using to perform that sport. So, yes, push ups are good. Yes, bench press is good. Yes, a squat is good. But if you can strengthen your muscle in the exact motion that you are as you're performing, that's even better. Let's see. Does does KAATSU have a Wi-Fi signal? I am concerned about EMF radiation close to my body. Yes, it does have. There is EMF, and it is irradiated. We did a test, and it's about the same as a digital alarm clock. And the radiation peaks again at the level of a digital clock when the band is being inflated. And so, um, yes. So if you don't want to use your phone, if you want to minimize or eliminate EMF, don't use the B2, buy the C4 unit, and you should be good to go. Um, Next question is, are you saying 30 reps with or without the KAATSU on? I'm saying 30 reps with KAATSU. With KAATSU. Yeah, without, if you're not using the KAATSU, then do your normal workout. Whatever workout you want, negatives, you know, high weight, high rep, whatever you would like to do. If you don't have KAATSU, I'm not addressing that. I'm only addressing KAATSU with resistance training, and you want to increase your muscle mass and strength. This is the protocol that we use. 3 to 5 sets of each exercise, 20 seconds rest in between, aiming for 30 reps on the first set and then decreasing thereafter. Let's see. I think so. I answered. There was 11 of those, 11 or 12 of those questions. Um, if you would like, it's sorry, I get animated when I talk about KAATSU. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. If you would like me to continue, I can share my screen, which I'll do now. And this is the PowerPoint I had. And it was simply the who, what, where, why, when, and how of KAATSU. Uh, the who is this is Dr. Sato. Dr. Sato lives in Tokyo, Japan. That's where I met him 25 years ago. This is a photo of him. This is when he received a shirt from the Navy SEALs. This would have been when he's 74 years old. Yes, he does dye his hair, but this is an untouched photograph. He does actually have, he's that well built, and he never uses heavy weight, doesn't even use moderate weight. What he does is he uses KAATSU in a very intense manner, as I was explaining, the 30 reps, then fall decreasing. These are pictures of actual users, um, uh, people in an office setting, people who are overweight, amputees, people in an airplane. This is actually Tina. I was talking about her earlier, the quadriplegic. This is at the point where I was able to not only get her spasticity decrease, but you can see she's now able at this point to move her arm by herself to 90 degrees, which is great. An older user, I think she's from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and this is a Olympic gold medalist. And you can see how veiny he is and how strong he is. These are a number of our Olympians. This is a Noah Syndergaard. Played for he played for the Dodgers and the Mets that I know of. Um, this is a Marine who was doing trying to set the world record for the number of pull-ups performed in 24 hours. Olympic silver medalist. She won gold and bronze. They're all between 100 and 200-meter runners. Michael again, and uh, so these are our athlete size. This is Captain Thomas Chaby. He was the first Navy SEAL to use KAATSU. Um, and you could see him with his big smile. And once Captain Chaby started to use KAATSU, then he introduced it to the rest of the Navy SEAL groups. These are how some of our special operators in the U.S. military use KAATSU. A lot of them do just their basic physical training, however way they have it on their arms or legs. And you could see them doing a variety of exercises here. This is a very interesting, this is the first day of use that we did it with Marine Sergeant uh, Justin Sponnagel. Unfortunately, he had a amputation of his left hand, and we took videos of him using it for the very first time. And I hope you can hear this. I just 2 cycles. He's on cycle medium. And he started at 10 pounds. Actually, he started way too heavy, 25. We immediately went down to 10, then 8. Now he's at 5 pounds. Justin, KAATSU cycles with movement like this. What's it feel like?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Feels like I'm doing 80 pounds rather than 5.
Get after it, brother. How's your left arm feeling?
Like I got weight in that one too. It's feeling good.
Excellent. Keep going, brother. Give me 2 more. Good job. So I don't know if you were able to hear that, but the Navy SEAL who introduced KAATSU to this Marine sergeant asked him, "How does your left arm feel?" And he said, again, this is the first time he's used it. "It feels like I have weight in that arm too." Imagine that. He has no weight, he has no hand, but he felt as if there was weight in this arm. That is what KAATSU is doing. So, and then look very carefully at the end of his residual limb. I'll do it again. Look very carefully at it. Cycles. He's on cycle medium. And he started at 10 pounds. Actually, he started way too heavy, 25. We immediately went down to 10, then 8. Now he's at 5 pounds. Justin, KAATSU cycles with movement like this. What's it feel like?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Feels like I'm doing 80 pounds rather than 5.
Get after it, brother.
How's your left arm feeling?
Like I got weight in that one too. It's feeling good.
Excellent. Keep going, brother. Give me 2 more. Good job.
This is after that session.
Justin, this is going to Dr. Sato, man. What do you think?
Hey, Dr. Sato, I've worked with Joe for the past couple of days with this KAATSU program, and it is just absolutely amazing. I used it yesterday, and I'm using it today. Last night, my pain was significantly reduced when I was there. It was just impressive, man. I mean, obviously amazing. I put my prosthetic on, and I could fire it better. And this is just an amazing program, and I really appreciate it. I really do.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin.
No worries. Thank you.
And you'll be getting one in a few days. Compliments of Operation Healing Forces, brother.
KAATSU strong, brother.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
No worries.
This is Jonathan. He's unfortunately, he got his legs blown off, and we use KAATSU for pain mitigation in his case. You could see the band around his one residual limb, and then the bands on his arms. If you have some time, we have a very nice video that we made with this Green Beret. He's a Purple Heart recipient. His name is Joe Lowry. If you go to KAATSU.com and then go to our YouTube channel, it's his story of he suffered a headshot in combat against the Taliban in Afghanistan. He became a hemiplegic, which means only one side can move. And so we've been working with Joe for quite a number of years now, and his story is very, very enlightening and inspirational. Let's see.
So it was
Oh, sorry.
2014.
Let me,
I was a member.
let's see. I want to move to the next slide. And something's happening here. Let's see. If I move to the next slide.
7 Special Forces Group. We go into the well.
I'm gonna actually exit right here. Now, come on. Sorry. We'll go out. No. I'm gonna stop and then move. Sorry, I'm gonna move to I'll pull it up. Again. Just a moment here. I apologize for the delay. Okay, here we go. Back on track. You can see we work with amputees. And this is the story of Olympian silver medalist, Todd Lodwick. It's him here. This is the 2010 Olympics where he was a silver medalist with his Nordic combined skiers. And leading up to Sochi, where they were favored to get back on the Olympic podium, a week before Todd did this. Total wipeout off of his ski jump. He was badly injured, broke his humerus, tore ligaments in his arm. We used KAATSU. You can see the bands here. You can go over this later.
Okay.
And see him
Slow
here
it down a little and
using KAATSU in various ways, doing a 3-point exercise with one hand and bicep curls on another. He was using it on his legs because he's in a Northern Combined. So he's a combination of 15 kilometers cross country running and then jumping off of the big ski jump. So again, he has here, this is 7 days after that horrific injury. And you can see he had a choice of doing surgery or KAATSU. He chose KAATSU. Surgery would have meant he would have been out of the Olympics. But Todd was using KAATSU intensely twice a day. And this was the very moment where he was cleared 28 days after he was injured, and he was cleared to compete. And remarkably, you could see the x-ray right after he got injured, but before KAATSU, and this is 28 days after. A remarkable transformation. And most happily, Todd was chosen by his fellow American Olympians to be our flag bearer. And look at the arm that he's carrying the US flag during the opening ceremonies, the very arm that was broken with torn ligaments. That's how quickly we got Todd back into place. And this is him here actually competing in the Olympics. Over the years, this is Dr. Sato. In years, he's trained everybody, including sumo wrestlers. This is me. We were testing a brainwave activity during KAATSU. This is Dr. Nakajima, the cardiologist who worked with Dr. Sato and taught me a variety of things. They were giving a lecture at the Harvard Medical School. This is Dr. Marita working with a heart attack survivor, cuts on her legs. Dr. Marita and Dr. Sato, Dr. Nakajima did really groundbreaking stuff in the University of Tokyo Hospital. This is a patient of theirs in the critical care unit with a KAATSU band on his arm. This would obviously this would be unheard of in the United States. This is the groundbreaking stuff that they're doing in Japan. What is KAATSU? KAATSU was created when Dr. Sato was sitting seiza in a ceremony, the equivalent of a wake. One of his relatives had died, and when he was sitting on his legs, he felt pressure on his calves. And at the moment, he thought that his calves felt pumped up, like had a muscle pump, because of the lack of blood in them. It was actually the reverse. And it took him years of experimentation to understand that. And this is a patent that we have. It's what is KAATSU? KAATSU is a method for strengthening blood vessels with extreme ease and a compression decompression system. That is what KAATSU is. This was a definition of KAATSU by Professor Yannis Pitsiladis of the International Olympic Committee. He said, positive adaptations for muscle mass, muscle strength, functional capacity, quality of life, and muscle mitochondrial function are achieved for people of all ages and walks of life with minimal movement and minimal effort with KAATSU. A very nice testimonial. This is where you place the KAATSU bands on, the B2 that uses a mobile phone, either in your upper arms or upper legs, or the C4 unit that has tubes and does not need any phone to be operated. Again, same place, upper arms or upper legs. Well, the perception is that KAATSU is used by, beefy men with big muscles. Anybody can use it, including our oldest user who is 104. You can also see the difference between a KAATSU band and a blood pressure cuff. Blood pressure cuff, when it's inflated, the band inflates inwards. Whereas a KAATSU band, as it's inflated inwards, it also has external pressure pushing out. There's one reason why. You see this is an image. This is armpit here. Hand is over on the left side. This is an artery, and this is a vein. Blood goes in this way, and even when this band is at this point 300 SKU, pretty tight, the artery is not impeded. So blood continues to flow into the hand. And you can see the vein here is slightly depressed. And that's the reason why your hand gets pink or rosy. We're all familiar with this illustration. Red signifies the arterial blood, so blood going away from the heart. Blue signals veins or the blood coming back to the heart. But in reality, our body is filled with tens of thousands of miles of capillaries. If we lined all of these small capillaries end to end, they would circle the world twice. Every single one of us has that many capillaries in our body. And that is what Dr. Nakajima and Dr. Sato understood to be the case. You can see here, we asked the 56-year-old woman, a KAATSU user, to put a band on one arm and not the other. You could see the KAATSU, the nice solid red color that she has on her arm when she does have the KAATSU inflated. When do you use KAATSU? You can use it anytime. You could use it in gymnasium. This is me at work. You can use it at your home. You could use it, I think actually this is her home also. You could use it in the office. You could use it relaxing at home. And I'll end here. And the why is, why do you want to use KAATSU? When the vascular tissue is engorged in blood and then it's released, nitric oxide and vascular endothelial cells are released. And these two molecules help this vascular tissue to become more elastic, more pliable, essentially younger. Another picture of the woman with band on one side and not the other. And all of this is more or less, I've already gone over most of this. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for your time and your interest and your questions. And I got all the questions. So thank you again. And thank you very much for listening to us on Cyber Monday. All right, take care. Thank you again for your interest and attention and questions. Bye.